move up to our top level of our projects and test that. Okay, so let's take a look. I don't see a spec file in there, so I'm going to go ahead and copy one and paste it in. I'm then going to rename it projects.service.spec. All right, I'm going to remove some of the areas we don't need. I'm going to go ahead and minimize all of these tests so that way I can get rid of them easily. All right. And then I need to go ahead and change the wording on all of this. All right, so I'm going to start with this, and we're going to say features. Let's import the features service, and then this here is going to be features repository. This should be features as well. And then this should be our feature entity, which we will import. All right, that looks good. Now I'm going to kind of just run it and see if it should be defined passes, and we fail. All right, so let's take a look at what we did. Cannot find module source features within project. So it looks like we didn't change one of our, nope. All right, looks like, where do I have, oh, because I'm doing, oh my gosh, I'm being so ridiculous. I made this features and it needs to be project. Silly me. All right, so let's go ahead and look at all of these. And let's change this to projects. We just worked on features. And I think it's because I copied the user stories, so I was just assuming we were going one up. All right, and then this needs to be project. But this is also kind of a cool thing because it shows you that just will tell you when you're doing something wrong. All right, now we pass. All right, so let's now get this all kind of set up correctly. So I want to look at my service. So I'm gonna make a second window, and then I'm not gonna look at user stories because that's gonna confuse me now. But I am going to look at, nope, I'm gonna look at it over here, but I am gonna look at the features service spec as well. So that way I can compare if I need to write out any tests and I need some syntax. Okay, so this is gonna be pretty good in terms of, now I'm going to write my test in the center window. I'm going to write my tests about my project service, which looks a little bit long. And I'm going to consult with my feature service spec file if I need to find any syntax. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize all of my functions in my project service file so I can kind of see what we're working with. All right, so get project by ID. All right, add statuses to project. So that one looks like it's going to be complicated, but that is okay. And since it's the first one, I think we'll just start with the complicated piece up front and try to write it. All right, so let's start, and it's going to be add statuses to project. Okay, and it doesn't look like it's an asynchronous function, so we will just write it like that. All right, let's go look and see if we're using any of our, no, we're not using any of our methods, which makes sense since it's not an asynchronous function. We're just passing in a project, okay? So that means then that we will need to have a project that we can mock, okay? So a project is going to have a name So let's make this project 1. It's going to have a description. So we're to make P1 description. All right, I'm also going to add this as a project. All right, and save. All right, so then what I'm going to do is, it looks like I am going to be getting a feature count, okay? And then I'm going to be looping through the features to get a user story count. Then I'm going to be looping through the user stories to get a task count. And then I'm going to be looking at the completed task numbers and indicating when their features started or not. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just try to make like a well-written project with a few features, user stories, and tasks. And then I'm going to kind of run it and see where we end up. Is going to be my game plan for this. Okay, so we have name and description. Let's go ahead and also, I think in this window, just to make it easy, I'm going to take a look at my project entity. So I think that will help me. So we also have a user, but we're not going to use it, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. And then we have features. Okay, so let's type in features here, which is going to be an array of features. So let's go ahead and make a feature object. It's going to have an and all of these should have IDs too. So we're going to say ID 1. Okay, so then feature is going to have an ID. We're going to say 1. We're going to have a name, and it's going to be feature 1. And then we're going to have a description, and it's going to be feature 1 description. And then within it, it's going to have user stories. And then we're going to have an object for it. And then we're going to have ID 1. We'd have name, user story 1. We're going to have description, which is going to be user story 1 description. And then within user stories, we have tasks. So it's going to be an array, and then we're going to have name task 1. Also need an ID 1. And then we are going to have status, which is going to be, let's say, to do. Okay. So let's then make another task within here. So this is going to be ID 2, task 2, and let's say this one is in progress. All right, so that's good. So then I'm going to copy this user story here. I'm going to make another one. So this is going to be my user story 2 description. Then this is going to be task 3. And this is going to be task 4. And let's say that task 3 is in progress. And let's say that task 4 is done. All right. Next, we are going to, so we have 2 user stories with each of 2 tasks. So I think what we want to do then is copy a feature and have another feature in it. Okay, so this is going to be feature 2. All right, and then we have user story 1, user story 2. So this is going to be user story 3. User story 4. All right, and then so we're up to task 4. So then this is going to be ID 5, task 5, ID 6, task 6, ID 7, task 7, ID 8, task 8. Okay, so then I think we're just going to leave those as is. So we have one project with 2 features, and then each feature has 2 user stories and 2 tasks. Okay, so we have a pretty well fleshed out project that we're going to be able to loop over. Okay, So we're not calling any methods in here, so we should be able to, all of these if statements are just changing the status, and then we are going to return project. Okay, so now we need to figure out what was added to each of these things to make it have the statuses. So I'm going to copy that, right, because we're returning the project. So I'm going to say project with statuses. All right, so let's go up to the top, and then like we're going to pretend we're the computer and we'll go through it. All right, so feature count is project.features.length. Okay, so I'm going to add in some pseudocode here. Let's see how we do. Completed features is 0, project started false. Okay, so we're going to have a feature at user story count and a feature at completed user stories. So let's go ahead and do that. So for each feature, okay, we are going to add 2 properties. So we're going to add user story count, which is going to be 2. All right, and then we're going to have completed user stories, which is going to be 0, right? Because if we look, one is with 0 completed user stories, because this one is not complete because it has a task that's to do and a task that's in progress. And then this one has a task that's in progress and one that's in done. So neither of them are complete. So we have completed user stories at 0. All right, so now let's copy this. And let's go to my next feature, and we're going to add those in as well. And it's mad at me. I think because we have this as project, so I'm going to get rid of the as project. Okay, so in our next feature, we have 2 user stories. I think what I want to do though is I actually want to make this user story done. So I'm going to have this be done. So this user story, because both tasks are done, this user story will be done. So our completed user stories will be 1. All right, so those have been added to the features. Okay. So now we're adding a task count to each user story. So let's go ahead and let's do task count. It's going to be 2. And then we want to do completed tasks. It's going to be 0. So that's for that user story. I'm going to go ahead and copy those properties though, so I can use them again. So then for this user story, we have task count 2, completed user stories 1. All right, let's go to this one. Task count 2, completed user stories 0. That still makes sense. And then this one is going to be task count 2, completed tasks 2. Okay. Feature status then, and user story count. All right, so let's unminimize that. All right, so now feature is going to have a property called status, and the status is either going to be to do, done, or in progress. It's going to be in progress because we have 1 completed. Not all of our tasks are to do. So that means that we have started it, but not all of our tasks are done. All right, so that feature has a status added to it. So let's add one to here too. It's also going to be in progress because we have 2 user stories and we only have 1 completed user story. Okay. And then it looks like the next thing that we have is project status. So let's go all the way up to project, and then we will have status is going to be in All right. So now that we have that very long object, okay, we should be able to now return project. So let's do const result is equal to await service dot add statuses to project, and then we're going to pass in project, and then we expect result to equal project with statuses. All right, it would be amazing. Oh, I guess this isn't an asynchronous function, so let's try it with that. It'd be amazing if we passed in the first one, but I don't feel super confident in that. Exactly. Okay. All right, so it looks like we are off. So let's go take a look. All right, so feature, it looks like where issues are at completed user stories in progress. One out of two, 0 out of 2, 0 out of 2. See, that makes sense to me. All right, so I'm actually going to console log in here, project, and let's take a look. This is kind of fun because all of our other tests were kind of the same, so this is fun that we are all right, so project ID 1, project 1, P1 description. Now where do we have our status? Status in progress. Okay, so that part makes sense. So then we have features. It looks like it's just going to show us the features level, so that's okay. So in features, we have ID, feature 1 description. User stories is going to be an array. User story count is 2, completed user stories 0 in progress. All right, so that looks good. All right, so then let's minimize this so we're matching. ID 2, feature 2 description, user story count 2, completed stories 0. Okay, so let's take a look. So this user story has 2 tasks, and then the completed tasks is 0 because this one's to do, this one's in progress. That makes sense. Okay, so let's take a look at this one then. 2 tasks. Okay, they're both completed. So this user story is completed. Did we not change it up here? Is that why? I think it's because we didn't, I think we changed something in project statuses, but we didn't change something in the top. All right, so I'm going to just copy projects with statuses, and I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to just say project here, and then I'm going to delete the statuses. And see if that fixes it, because yes, I think I edited the object as I was writing. All right, and then we can say as project. All right, let's try this and see how we do. All right, perfect. So it was human error. I changed my return object without changing my input object, and that would explain it. So we're going to kind of minimize these, and yeah, I think that looks good. All right, so we will move on to our next one. Our next one is what? All right, so we added statuses to projects. All right, our next one is get user projects from ID. All right, so we're going to say get user projects, and then we are going to describe it. So we're going to returns a user's projects based on their past in ID. This is an asynchronous function, so we have to make our test suite asynchronous too. And then we're going to say const ID equals, let's do 15, because that's our user ID that we've been pretending to use. And then we are going to say const projects, because we're going to be finding projects. All right, and we are going to then, let's just for simplicity do one project. All right, and I am going to, so yeah, let's do ID. Let's do as project array. Okay, so ID is going to be 1, and we're going to have name is going to be, let's do ID 2. No, let's do 1, and let's do project 1. And then we're going to have description is going to be project 1 description. I'm debating if I should just copy the project. I should, shouldn't I? Okay, so let's just copy the project from up here. Okay, and then let's add another project for funsies. All right, so then this one is going to be project 2, and this would be project 2 description. And then let's just say project 2 does not have 2 features, it only has 1 feature. And let's say it only has 1 task and 1 user story. All right. Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be our input project that we're going to go through. All right, so then the next thing that we need to do is the output. So we're going to say const projects with statuses, and then we are going to copy this array. All right, now let's go and add all of the statuses. Okay, so because that's what we're returning ultimately, and so we are going to take a look. So each feature, so the first project we already have up here, so I'm going to copy that object and I'm going to replace this one with it. And did that work? Yes. Okay. The second one we will manually edit. Okay, so we got project description. Let's go through it the way the function does it though. Okay, so feature, so we're gonna have user story count, and the user story count is going to be 1. And then we want to say completed user stories, and that is going to be, you know what, let's just, nope, we're doing it again. We're changing things. No changing things. Okay. So the user story count is 1 and it's not complete. Okay. So then we want to have this here where we're going to say task count is going to be 1, and then we're going to have completed tasks is going to be 0. Task count, completed task, completed user stories. So now we need a feature status. So status is going to be to do, because we haven't started the task, which means we haven't started the user story. And then that also means we will have a project status. And that is going to be to do. All right. So let's minimize that. All right. So we have projects. So let's ID projects, projects with statuses. Okay. So then what we can do is we now need to, if you look, we're going to need to mock this find. So let's go back to here to make sure we understand how to do that. Yep, we're just going to grab the syntax there, just spy on mock project repository, and we are going to be mocking find, and then we're going to mock return value. And when we find that, we're passing the ID, we're going to be finding projects. Okay. Next, we can actually call our function. So we're going to say await service dot get user projects, and then we are going to pass in the user ID there. Okay. And then we are going to say we expect our result to equal projects with statuses. All right, I doubt it's gonna pass in the first one because we used our brain, but let's go ahead. Oh, and I did. That's kind of exciting. Go me. Okay, so then we can also now add our other expect statements. So we expect mock projects repository dot find to have been called, and we expect mock project repository dot find to have been called with, and then let's copy this and paste it in. All right, and then let's rerun it. Awesome. All right, so we have officially done the first kind of 2 tests, and when we will return in the next video, we will go ahead and take a look at some of these other functions. See you in the next one.